Dan really likes wine touches down in Scotland for one of my favourite weeks of the year. This is the Alfred Dunhill Links Championships, which to the outside world is a golf tournament with plenty of great players and some rather well-known celebrities. But for those of us lucky enough to be part of the Dunhill Links family, it is far more than that. It's a coming together of old friends, of great mates. It's a week of stories and misadventure, plenty of great golf, but also just the chance to hang out with some really, really cool people. And in this case, that extends to doing so on the show, because normally this would be an interview for the Dan Nicholl Show and one of the great cricketers of modern times. But said cricketer is actually something of a wine expert and a very devoted apostle of the Church of South African Wine. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome a dear friend of mine and someone who my grandparents used to love watching play cricket when they were young, Mr. Allan Lamb.
Thank you, Dan, for those kind words. Yes, I think if it hadn't been for South Africa, growing up in South Africa and going to the wine farms when we were young, I probably wouldn't have known about wine. But then my experience of these wines, when I travelled with England, we managed to go around the world, and Australia was always our favourite to go to because we went to different wineries. So yes, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a wine expert, but I do love drinking the wine.
Well, you're definitely an enthusiast, and you are the headline act on a wine WhatsApp group where you regularly post incredible restaurants and great wines you to get out to. And that's partly your South African heritage, your South African blood, but also not just playing cricket and travelling the world, but playing cricket and travelling the world at a time when it was slightly different to be a professional cricketer, when you could get out on your day off in the middle of a test match and go and do some wine tasting and go and have a night out with a few good glasses over dinner.
Yeah, you know, Dan, when we had the test match, when we first started, we didn't play on a Sunday because, you know, everyone had to go to church on a Sunday, but we did arrange a great braai or barbecue they would have, and we would go and have a really proper day on a Sunday and enjoy it and turn up with the game on the Monday, you know, which was unknown now, but I mean, in those days in '82 when we played, that's the way we went.
I remember over lunch last year you telling me the story about probably David Gower's greatest contribution to England cricket, which wasn't his cover drive or flamboyant hundreds, but it was a champagne deal that he negotiated for a trip to Australia.
Yeah, he was absolutely brilliant. He said to me, I think we need to get some champagne and some wine, you know, on this trip, because, you know, we need to be looked after. So I said to him, okay, well, you sort the champagne out and I'll do the wine. So I went to Jeff Merrill and he sponsored us with the wines, which wherever we went, we got Jeff Merrill wines. And Gower had done a deal with Bollinger. Well, unknown, the deal was, if you win a test match, you get the ordinary Grand Cru. If you draw the test match, you get the RD. And if you lose the test match, you get the real proper McCoy. I can't remember. It could have been the RD. And we said this is totally wrong because the first two test matches you won. And Gower then changed it around, made sure we had them. But I think what happened is we played in the one-day game, and we were down and out. We had a very big night before. We had Richie Benaud and we had Elton John, George Michael, you know, all the mega stars. And
I love that your chosen trio is Richie Benaud, Elton John and George Michael.
Well, they somehow cricket fanatics, so they came and joined us. And we had this place in Bondi Junction, a big flat, and my lovely wife was working with this girl who ran a catering business. And so we decided to have a party. So we had all the wines and everything, and they all came there. And we had a fantastic evening. And anyway, Tony Gregg, you know, all the so the following day, you know, the game only starts at 2:33. So it was perfect for us. We just sleep it off in the morning and then turn up at lunchtime for practice. And what had happened is I managed to get that freak over of 18 runs in the last over and we won. And we got interviewed by Richie Benaud and Tony Gregg. And they said, fantastic evening, thank you for last night. And I said, how did you, what did you feel you played? I said, well, if you drink that wine and that champagne, you're going to play like a king, aren't you? And they loved it. And Richie Bennett at the end said, well, that R.D. Bollinger is the best in the world. There was nothing left in Australia. They were buying it back from the team. So Gower had done a good deal for us.
When I hear stories like that, people often say, Allan Lamb is a great example. If he'd been playing today, he'd be a multi-millionaire every season playing IPL cricket, and the financial fortunes would have been very different. But the fortune that you got from playing in those times, the experience, the stories, the memories, I think in so many ways even more valuable.
Yeah, Dan, listen, modern times have I been playing, wow, the world's your oyster now, with the one day. But I'm not going to give up what I came through the hard times, and we had fantastic times. The spirit and the people we had, the camaraderie, everything was fantastic. So I'm not going to give that up. But I never would criticize what the players are earning now, because I think they deserve it, and good luck to them.
And you still get a very close look at the world of cricket. The South African victory over Australia in the World Test Championship at Lord's earlier this year. I was lucky enough to be your guest in your box for one of the days. It's a box for 20 people. I think there were 116 of us in at one stage. If you run Lord's and you're listening to this, I'm joking. If you're not, then this is absolutely true. And included in there, I turned around at one point and there was Mick Jagger chatting to Jeff Thompson, and you're this beacon for cool people having a good time around cricket and wine.
Correct. And we had some great wine in there too, but the problem is I said, please don't put my name on the box, because if you put the name on the box, everyone's going to turn up. But you know what happened in that? Johan Rupert and Nick Johnson and Paul Harris, they had a box upstairs in the upper mount. And when I left, I said to them, I should have had a bet with them, to be honest. I said, you know what, there's only one guy who's going to win this game for you today, and that's Markram. And Markram had let himself down in so many test matches by giving his wicket away. I said, that guy looks so committed, he's going to win it. I should have had a bet with him, but I didn't. But anyway, Markram played unbelievable.
Well, you'll have to have a glass of wine with him to celebrate. He's more of a beer guy, but I'm sure you can persuade him to have a glass of wine, which is something you've done so many years with cricketers who are friends and friends who are cricketers. What are some of those memorable dinners out, nights out, a good bottle of wine with a great friend in the game?
Well, if I go back, it's, when we managed to have that year with David Gower, we got invited to Penfolds with the winemaker, and he pulled out a couple of the bottles that were never going to be seen again, because he loved Gower and the English team and whatever. But if I go back and I look at the times I've had, it's always been over a lovely special bottle of wine. Someone else has paid, I hope. But I mean, I'm on a bit of a group with wines, and I just can't believe the wines people are drinking at the moment. But the love of wines, I've always loved wine, and South African wine has just gone to a different level. French, the English wines are coming up, but I think South African wines, probably value for money in England at the moment, are the best, I would believe.
And I do agree with that, but the one thing I generally try and steer away from is talking about that value for money element, because it puts something into the back of people's heads that, it qualifies the quality somehow. And I think, forget price, just standing shoulder to shoulder, so much of our wine is right up there. And we've got one that I think qualifies for that. It's the first of two wines we'll try on the show this evening. And this wine will be special to you for a number of reasons. It is South African, it's Chenin Blanc, and I know you're a big fan of the Chenin Blanc grape, and it's also one of the wines of our good friend Johan Rupert. What does Allan Lamb make of this? Give us the wine drinking cricket expert's enthusiastic take.
A little bit of acidity, a little bit of oak, but beautiful. I mean, you know, summer drinking, this is just absolutely perfect. And, you know, Johan's been involved in wine for a long time, and somehow he's just delivering some great wines at the moment. So I would say this is fantastic, right up the best with South African Chenin Blanc.
Well, if you're listening and not watching, which is often the case, the wine we are drinking is the Cape of Good Hope Chenin, and it's another wonderful reminder of that Swartland brilliance. The kind of wine that could go so well with so many different dishes, but particularly with seafood and or food with a little bit of spice. Which takes me to a restaurant that I think you know rather well, that has got seafood, has got food with a bit of spice, and has a cricketing connection. The Ministry of Crab in Sri Lanka. I think if it's not on the wine list, this could be a great addition.
Exactly, and that came about by Sangakkara and Mohali, two great Sri Lankan cricketers, and they started this up, and it was just absolutely brilliant. But you know what? Being a top-class cricketer, they get a little perks because no one was allowed to catch the crab and sell it in a restaurant. It was all exported to Singapore and everything. And these guys came up, and the government must have backed them big time. And let me tell you, I don't know if you've been to the Ministry of Crab before, but Dan, you've got to go. Colombo, I think they've opened, there was one opening in England, not too sure, but they've opened up in Europe too, but fantastic.
When I look at one of the great joys of sport from your era versus sport today, and it kind of reinforces the point made earlier of the experience that you had, I'll talk to the guys who are over playing in the IPL, and life is hotel room, training facility, match, repeat, repeat, repeat. Occasionally they'll get a restaurant blocked off for them for the night, but they're just too many fans, it's too chaotic and too mad. When you went through your playing days and now in your days of taking tour groups around the world, when you go to a country like Sri Lanka, yes, the cricket is the reason you're there, but the chance to go and experience the food scene, to see what wine is on the wine lists, that, from everything I see and know of you, is as much a joy and enticement as it is going to watch a game of cricket.
Correct, Dan. You know, the thing was, I was very restless. I couldn't sit and watch television in a room. And when I toured Australia, we went to the wine farms, we went fly fishing, we did everything. You know, we didn't stay there. And I think when you go abroad, you've got to meet people. You can't, if you're not going to meet people, and you know, the people living in Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, all over the world. So I always got out the room and went out and explored. As I took Tim Russ once on a World Cup game, we played in Peshawar, and we ended up going across the border, which was quite heavy, and everyone's driving around with bikes with machine guns on the back and everything like that. And Tim said, "Where are we?" I said, "We're taking you to the place where we're going to buy these carpets, these lovely, you know, peshmer carpets and all that." Anyway, we got taken in there. And first of all, we got taken into this gun shop. There were just guns all over the place. And poor Tim, I could see him absolutely trembling with fear. Anyway, we then went back, you know, got these beautiful carpets, and they rolled them up. And then we had to go to this fort. These people who loved their cricket, and we had to go there. All of a sudden, they gave us a go on these machine guns. We nearly shot the balcony down. These things were flying all over the place. But we eventually got out alive because Pakistan beat India to qualify, and they won. We were so worried, we weren't going to let out, but I said, "Boys, don't worry, one of Lamb's tours, you'll be okay." And we all got out again. Well, the guys couldn't believe it. It was just incredible.
What has been, in all of your travels and journeys and adventures, the most surprising, the most unexpectedly memorable food and wine experience you've had?
You know, Australia is fantastic, and I've got to talk about my sporting tours. I mean, I've been all over the world eating at famous restaurants and fantastic, but sporting tours, I would say Australia would be up with the best, but South Africa is incredible. I mean, their food and wine has just gone to a different level.
So better perhaps than the boarding school food you had at Weinberg Boys
totally.
in the early 1920s.
The West Indies, great food, but I mean, Sri Lanka, different food. India, great food, but just the different flavors and all that type of stuff. So, India would be right up there, and Australia, South Africa.
If I'm traveling to India, as cricket mad a nation as one can imagine, I am expecting some great food. I would wonder though, having not spent time in India, what sort of wine I'd have access to. How much has wine made its way into the Indian culture if I am dining out across India?
You can find wine. They've got South African wine. But I haven't really spoken to the agents. I haven't been to India for a year now. But India like to stock the best wines at their top restaurants, and plus their hotels.
And by best wines, of course, you mean South African wines, which reminds me of the last time we saw each other in South Africa, which was not that long ago. And we had a tour of Takara and settled in for some lunch thereafter. And you had a whole group of what appeared to be members of assorted bowls clubs from across the UK who had come out to join you on this adventure. You take many people to South Africa. You and Daryl Balfour do quite a regular tour around South Africa. Are people still surprised when they get to South Africa about the sheer quality of the wine we make?
Dan, I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and I think it just gets better and better. And we try offer what money can't buy in South Africa. So we try find the places that not a lot of people go to or we can get into. And it's just gone from strength. I'm not doing it this year because of the Ashes. I'll do it next year because I think England are playing next year. So
indeed.
We'll carry on with that. So I love to take them to the best places for food and wine in South Africa, and then we do a great safari at the end. I mean, you can't have that anywhere else in the world.
It is an exceptional combination.
It is totally exceptional. You can't go to Australia. What are you going to take them to watch a bunch of kangaroos jump around? And Brazil, people wouldn't understand. So I mean, there's a little unique sort of thing into South Africa, and I've got my foot in there. And we know all the lovely, famous wine, from Badenhorst, Scully Low. Even, we know them all. So, people tend to help me quite a lot because of probably my background being South African, which helps. But I always remember, because when I played for England, it was never, in those days when South Africa was banned from apartheid and everything like that, they never classed me as an Englishman. They still don't class me as an Englishman. So if I got 100, or I did well, South African, Allan Lamb, got 100. So I kept the flag flying. And I always believe never run the country down of your birth.
Look, all of that is offset by the dreadful English accent that you've picked up over the years.
How now, brown cow?
We'll forgive you for it. The trips that you've done have given you some first-hand insight into some gems. The question I get asked the most in the wine industry: what's your favourite wine? What's your favourite place to go and visit? What are the ones over the last few years of exploring South African wine and the winelands in a bit more detail that have really struck a chord for you?
Well, Ebenside is totally off the planet. There's so many. Cali Low. I just find that Swartland, and what we do, we get all the wine farmers to come into Badenhorst Place, and they bring all their wines, because you can't do all those different places. So that is a brilliant experience, because you get all the Swartland guys. You go to Amanus, and you got Hamilton Russell, Restless River. You got all those guys. We can see which are upset, and then you do Stellenbosch and Franschhoek. You know what? I can't just pick out one, but we did a vertical tasting at Rupert and Rothschild, which was off the planet. We went into the cellar and we sat down and we did a tasting in there, which was just probably one of my best experiences we had.
Speaking of Rupert and Rothschild, we do have a second wine to have a quick taste of, and this is the same family but on a slightly different brand, the Antonio Rupert 2015 blend, super vintage for red wine, and a very different style. This is a big, bold, lush, broad-shouldered red. It's one that doesn't last very long in the nickel cellar, mainly because my wife gets hold of it and it evaporates, but cheers, Lammy.
And this is called...
this is the Antonio Rupert blend.
Is this a new one? I haven't seen
no,
this
this is the absolute flagship. So you mentioned earlier that the Chenin was perfect for summer. In Scotland, summer this year was a Wednesday afternoon in July. Winter wine is really what you're looking out for, and this is wine that'll warm your heart and soul, and it's a big blanket, a fireplace in winter of a glass of wine.
It's there's quite a bit of Shiraz grape. It's a blend, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Yeah. But I think it's fairly delicious. You could really get stuck in. And when the winters are drawing cold here in Scotland, I think, Dan, we could be sitting outside and drinking this. Absolutely perfect.
Quite happily. We spoke about the Ministry of Crab, Kumasanga Caramela Jawardner's restaurant in Colombo being perfect for the Chenin. Where in the world are we headed? Who are we drinking this particular red with?
I would say I would like to get my best friends around to my house, and over a lamb barbecue, this could be the best in the winter.
I think that'd be a pretty good... I'm free for that day. I'm not sure when it is.
But I may have to have a look at the invitations first.
Well, that actually leads me to one of the questions I wanted to wrap up with, which is, as you look back over your career, you played both with and against some of the most extraordinary cricketers of modern times. You're one of the few English batsmen who was able to give as good as he got against the fearsome West Indies pace attack. But set aside the cricket ability and swap it instead to the guys who round that dining room table. What would Allan Lamb's first 11 of wine be? Who are the guys who know a bit about their wine, love their wine, but also who would give you a really good, memorable evening of drinking some great wine, but having a whole pile of fun along the way?
Well, I think if I'm looking at opening batsman, it's going to be... the middle order looks good in a few bowlers. So let's start off, I would say Gower as the finest and the best. Great player. Your all-rounder would be Ian Botham.
Comfortably,
he'll drink anything. And Dennis Lilly has probably one of the best sellers in Australia.
Really?
So which is one you must visit if you go to Australia, and I'll organise that. Tomo, I'm afraid you can't, he doesn't drink wine, so he's gone. Alan Board is not bad, but more on the beer. Derek Pringle was not a bad wine man. It's a difficult one, really. There's not a lot of my players didn't want to pay for the wine. They were fairly tight. But Gower didn't worry what he, so I don't know if I could get a full side on that. But
well, you could probably throw Jawardner in there. I believe he's got a decent side.
Oh yeah, Sangakkara and Jawardner, definitely have them in. From New Zealand,
Stephen Fleming is a big wine man.
Yeah,
he's got his own label.
Maybe Wrighty and Richard Hadley, they like their wine. West Indies, Norman, just rum and cork. We've got no wine drinking there, so I didn't have any. Pakistan, well, they couldn't drink. India, Kapil Dev, he used to have the odd wine. Shastri, Ravi likes a little glass of red or two.
This has got the makings of both a good 11 and a very good night out.
Yes, totally.
All right. Well, we're wrapping up over two of the several bottles that will be on show this week at the Dunhill, and I think this is in many ways a microcosm of your career, because this tournament brings together many great people, including many great athletes, brings together some fabulous wine, brings together sport, and brings together that real sense of family and togetherness. And I think if you put all of those into one single bottle, you've kind of got Allan Lamb in a bottle, because that really is the man you are to me, who I've got to know, loving wine, loving good times, loving sport, but most importantly, having friends who are family, and always being around them, and being a centre of that family, which has always been something that's made you so special.
Thanks, Dan. I think you probably hit the nail on the head there, because this event I've been coming for, I don't know, 17, 18 years, and you know, Johan and I went back from, you know, when I was just coming out of school. He played for Stellenbosch University with Paul Harris, Mackay, Barry Hobson, I think Proctor played, Mornay Duplessis. So they had an unbelievable side. And you know, me getting invited up here, it's one of the best the best invitation of the year coming up here. And you know, as you said, it's about the people you're meeting, and the jokes and the stories we're telling about everyone. So to me, I'd like to raise a little glass to the Dunhill and to you, Dan. Thank you.
Oh, there we go. You call it the best invitation of the year. It certainly is. The second best invitation is an invitation to Allan Lamb's house for a lamb braai with wine. So if you are watching, fantastic. But if you're listening on the podcast, wherever you are in the world, look out on the Dan Really Likes Wine channels. Coming soon, we'll have a date and an address. Every single one of our fans is invited around to Lammy's house. We're going to have one hell of a party, plenty of great wine, and it should be a terrific night. Lammy, thank you. Lovely to have you on the show. And thanks for a few great glasses of wine. My guest this week, as we hang out in Scotland at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championships, one of the great batsmen of the 80s, 90s, and possibly some of the 70s and 60s, now a world traveller, a gourmand, and a great lover and enthusiast of wine, and despite his England colours, always a proudly South African at heart, the great Allan Lamb.